I know, I know, I know. I am sorry to report to you guys that not at one point during this movie did I see Batman using the shark repellent. This movie was garbage. I'm just kidding. This movie. Ah! And welcome to my safe game, everybody. Thank you guys for clicking on this video and joining me for a review of one of the most anticipated, if not the most anticipated movie of 2022, and that is The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves. But before we get into that, hey, how's it going? If this is your first time seeing my face and clicking on one of my videos, hey, my name is Michael, the Black Gay Comic Geek, and I always say the things that I love to talk about in my fantasy and on my channel has blood, sex, gore, and magic, or any variation of the four. So I like to talk superheroes, I like to talk video games, I like to talk comic books, I like to talk action movies, I like to talk sci-fi, and I like to talk fantasy. I like to talk black representation and queer representation, because you can tell from the name, I am both. So if that's something that you are interested in, if you like this video, if you like my opinion, and you want to check out the other videos on my channel, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and become a regular, what I call my safe Gaveneers on the channel. Whether this is your first time, you've been on this channel a lot, you've been with me since the beginning, and actually now that I'm talking about it, I didn't even think about it and I didn't make any post or do any type of celebration, but last month makes like February 15th-ish, makes like 3 years since I've been making YouTube videos. So congratulations to me, I guess. But anyway, with that said, if you want to help me celebrate this 3-year milestone, if you could do me a favor and hit that like button, it'll not only get this video out there with the YouTube algorithm, to get my channel out there so I can continue to grow this train. But anyway, we are here to talk about Matt Reeves' The Batman. This is going to be a non-spoiler review because obviously the movie isn't really technically out yet. I got to see it yesterday, Monday, February 28th, so I want to say first and foremost, thank you to Warner Brothers and DC for allowing me the opportunity to even see the movie early and go to a screener. And then also, most importantly, I want to say a thank you to all you guys on my channel and my Safe Gaveneers, because without the support of you for the last 3 years, following me on all my social medias, not just on YouTube, but TikTok especially, Instagram, etc., and giving me the support and love, I wouldn't even be in the position where I can go to any type of screener or get early access to Netflix movies, Sony movies, etc., etc. So I want to say a special thank you to you guys. I didn't get to go to the red carpet premiere here, which was also here in New York. I guess I'm not that fancy for the red carpet premiere, but I still got to go early, so I appreciate that. Maybe I'm too gay for the red carpet premiere. I don't know. I don't know. I'm like, whose dick I gotta suck to get to go to a red carpet premiere? But anyway, let's talk about The Batman. Again, this is going to be a non-spoiler review. But the synopsis for the 2022 Batman is: Batman ventures into Gotham City's underworld when a sadistic killer leaves behind a trail of cryptic clues. As the evidence begins to lead closer to home and the scale of the perpetrator's plans become clear, he must forge new relationships, unmask the culprit, and bring justice to the abuse of power and corruption that has long plagued the metropolis. Not to be confused with the actual city in DC Comics Metropolis. And with that said, this movie was great. And I made a video about this on Instagram earlier today about a little known comic book fact, because they don't really talk about it that much. And for those of you that don't know, I was born and raised and currently live in New Jersey. And I was like, I don't know if this is a flex or if this is something I should be ashamed of, but most people in the comic book world know, or even if you're not really a big comic book fan, you just watch the Batman movies or the DC movies, period. For the most part, a lot of people know that Gotham City is like one of the worst cities in all of DC Comics. But a little known fact that, like I said, that a lot of people don't know is Gotham City is actually in New Jersey. So it's basically Camden, New Jersey. And so with that, with the level of crime that's in Gotham City, that's something that they really dialed into with regards to this movie. Like the levels of corruption, I feel like I haven't really seen that in any live action Batman movie. Like, you've seen corruption, obviously, but like they show in this movie that it goes deep. The cops, the DAs, the politics, like it's everywhere. The entire city is basically corrupt. Like Gotham felt like a character in this movie, and that's something that I love. And it just makes you wonder, like, why do people live in, I mean, I'm pretty sure, like, because it's so bad in Gotham, the rent is probably super low. So that's why people choose to stay there, because they're probably paying like $400 a month for their rent. So they're like, yeah, if I go anywhere else, if I go to Metropolis where Superman is, it's much more safer. I'm probably paying like $2,000. But I'm just like, yeah, Gotham, it's Camden, New Jersey, which I'm like, so yeah, I'm like, should I be happy that Gotham's in my home state or not? And so with that said, considering the levels of corruption and how violent and terrible Gotham is, with that, you can't tell a story like that in this movie not be dark. And I will say that this is probably the darkest Batman movie, live action Batman movie that has ever come out. But to give one of my only negative criticisms regarding this movie, I do feel like because this movie tries to be as dark as it is, because it's so violent, because it's so gritty, I do feel like this movie was hampered a little bit by not being a full-on rated R. And I do feel like had this movie have been rated R, my excitement, the intensity, the level of scare that they tried to inject in this movie would be dialed up to an 11 and will probably increase my rating for this movie. But because they were hampered by the PG-13 rating, like you could tell Matt Reeves wanted, like, I don't know, you could just tell that he wanted to do more, but he wasn't allowed to, because there was moments of characters getting shot or brutally beaten, and then they cut to that person, and it's like, there's like no blood. It's like they got a paper cut, and yet they were like, they had their head bashed in, and yet there was no blood. But yet, again, this movie really dialed into the violence, so I really do feel like this movie should have been rated R. Now, with that said, the fact that it was PG-13, they did a good job in still giving us the PG-13 rating while making you still feel the violence, but I do still wish it was rated R. And who knows, that could just be a me thing, especially with my whole thing of loving blood, sex, gore, and magic, you know, emphasis on the blood and the gore. And yeah, so there wasn't really a whole lot of that in this movie. And I would say, honestly, really, that's my biggest criticism. So yeah, I pretty much got that out the way. But like, I definitely feel like, because I remember, and I'm like, at this point, the internet, the fandom, we should stop prematurely criticizing actors that have been cast in certain roles. Because once again, you got the announcement that Robert Pattinson is playing Bruce Wayne Batman, and the entire internet, and not so much me, but I did feel it in the back of my mind, but I have gotten to the point where I'm just like, I'm not even going to criticize it till I see it. Because also, I've never really seen a Robert Pattinson movie. All I know him from is Twilight, but I had absolutely no interest in seeing the Twilight movie, so I've never seen Twilight. So I don't know how good or bad or whatever, how he was as an actor. But the entire internet was freaking out over the casting of Robert Pattinson, the boy from Twilight, even though he's done other things and has gotten a lot of accolades from his acting outside of Twilight. But people are like, the guy from Twilight, why is he Batman? That doesn't make any sense. But I will say, like, yeah, after this movie, everybody needs to bow before the altar of Robert Pattinson, because he was an incredible Batman. Like, and honestly, he was probably like the most intense version. His version of Batman was probably the most intense version of Batman, and also the version of Batman that out of all the versions of Batman really dialed down into the fact that, like, Bruce Wayne is not okay in the head. Like, he needs serious therapy. Like, this guy is unfreaking hinged. And you saw a lot of that in his brutality and the way he fights. Like, you could see a lot of anger in Robert Pattinson's version of Batman. And the thing that I loved about Matt Reeves' directing and the cinematography is they really focused, even though he's wearing the mask, they really focused on Robert Pattinson's eyes a lot of times in the movies. And so you could always see the rage and somewhat a small level of insanity with his character. And then also, like, and I mentioned this to Frankie when I was in the theater, I was like, you could almost kind of see that his version of Batman, he enjoys this chaos a little bit, because he enjoys going after and beating down these criminals. And again, which dials down into the fact that Bruce Wayne is crazy. Like, this man is a rich billionaire that really the reason he's Batman is because he has absolutely nothing better to do, because there are other ways to actually save the city than dressing up as a bat and going out and beating people up that don't have health care. And they actually kind of make a reference to that in this movie. Like, they talk about how Bruce Wayne, he could be doing so much more for the city of Gotham, but he's not. And I mean, ultimately from a like socio-commentary perspective, because that is like something that's a lot of people say, like, well, as much money that Bruce Wayne has, he could save pretty much the entire city of Gotham. And I mean, technically speaking, that's not really up to him. He's not a government official. So it really should be on the government to do more for Gotham, and they're not. So yeah, I don't know. But anyway, and also the thing that I really loved in this movie that was kind of different from all the other Batman movies, like, because Bruce Wayne, Robert Pattinson's version, he's so reckless, he's angry. Like, this movie takes place basically in year 2. So he's only been Batman for 2 years. So he's basically still new. And so there's some moments in the movie where you don't get the polished, super incredible ninja version of Batman. Like, this man is, again, he's completely reckless. Like you saw in the trailer how where in the hallway scene, that's also reminiscent of the hallway scene in Rogue One with Darth Vader, where all the villains were shooting at him and he was eating the bullets in the armor. Like, Batman did a lot of that, where he would just, instead of doing like the hiding in the shadows and, you know, evading the bad guys, doing a lot of ninja flips, it's like, no, he would walk head on into the danger, recklessly taking bullets when he could be avoiding them, and just, again, brutally beating those bad guys, just showing that, this Batman is reckless, and he's also new. And so with that, he's not fully trusted by the city. They still don't know what his deal is, and the cops also don't really like and accept Batman. There's a lot of moments where they're like, why is he even here? Why is he even at this crime scene? He's a vigilante. He should be locked in jail. And actually with that, now that I think about it, I do have another thing I was slightly disappointed in. And this is just a me thing, because most of y'all know, if y'all watch my channel for any level of time, I'm like perpetually thirsty. And I was like, there's not enough shirtless scenes of Robert Pattinson. Like, I want to see like the workout, his Batman workout. Now, granted, I was like, he could be a little bit bigger, but still, like, there wasn't a lot. There were a lot of moments where you got to see like his back, but I was like, show the front, and they didn't really show a lot of, you know, shirtless Bruce Wayne. So I'm like, oh, come on. Blood, sex, gore, and magic. But I guess now that I think about it, according to DC, Batman doesn't have sex, so, or at least he doesn't perform oral sex on Catwoman. So I guess him being shirtless would make sense. And also it would make sense of him being so angry if he's not getting any release. But speaking of getting a release, also a thing that I loved about this movie is this was probably the best relationship I've ever seen between Batman and Jim Gordon. And then not only just that, talking about release, they allowed Jeffrey Wright's version of Jim Gordon to really be out there in the streets with Batman. And that's something that I enjoy, seeing him take a more active role, because he is a cop. He's not the Commissioner Gordon right now. Right now, I think he's just a lieutenant or a captain in the police force. So he's an active cop. You see him out there working with Batman, being a detective, being a cop. And that's something that I enjoy. Like, most times you see Jim Gordon in Batman movies, he's just there to be like, hey, Batman, I'm turning on the bat signal. This is what's happening. Okay, go deal with it. And it's like, no, he was out there with him. And I was like, yes, for Jeffrey Wright's Jim Gordon. I'm like, no, it's because he's black. That's why he got some action going on, a little bit of action. But also with that, talking about Jeffrey Wright getting action. Like, this movie, I feel like while it didn't have a whole lot of action scenes, the action in this movie was incredible. Like, the car chase that you saw a little bit of in the trailer between the Penguin and Batman, that was probably one of the best Batman, or one of the best car chase scenes in not in movies, but the best car chase scene in a superhero movie. That scene was incredible. And then also what really made this movie is the score. Like, the Batman theme, and not just the Batman theme, but all of the music in this movie just made it that much more intense. And that's why I'm just like, I wish this movie was rated R, because this movie could have been a lot more scary if they really dialed into the rated R. And what helped make that scariness was the main villain, the Riddler. And this version of this is not the Jim Carrey version of the Riddler. No, what a lot of people don't realize is the Riddler is scary as hell. The Riddler is incredibly smart. And this version of the Riddler showed that he was smart, he was scary, he was menacing. This is more of the Hush version of the Riddler for those that maybe either saw the animated cartoon. Well, I didn't like the way they portrayed the animated version, but the comic book version of Riddler, when he had the mask on, and it was part of the Hush comic book line. That's what this version of Riddler is reminiscent of. But I also saw a tweet that was kind of funny, and I'm gonna try to see if I can find it and put it in here. But the main actor, whose name I can't think of, I've never seen him in any. Well, actually, no, I saw 12 Years a Slave, but I saw it one time, so I don't really remember him in it. But he released a statement or whatever, or in an interview, he was talking about how after playing the Riddler, he couldn't sleep for like a week because of how intense the character was. And I saw a response that said, and I bet you he slept like a baby playing a slave master on 12 Years a Slave. And I was like, it's so funny, it's so sad, but I'm like, it's probably true. But he was great. Like, every single actor in this movie did not come to play. Like, they all brought their A game. And it was like the acting performances were incredible. Like Colin Farrell as the Penguin, I was like, my God. And I don't even think that was him in a fat suit. I think he actually, if I remember correctly, he actually gained that weight to look like that. And he, like, you did not see Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell was completely gone while he was playing Oswald Cobblepot. And I can't wait to see more of his character, because we're definitely going to get a sequel. This movie is going to make $1 gazillion. So we're definitely going to get another movie. So I cannot wait to see more of his Penguin. And of course, you got Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle, Catwoman. She was great. The only thing I was just like, I wasn't a fan of is her costume. Like with the mask, I was like, she's barely wearing a mask. What's the point of the mask? And you could see like her entire face. But outside of that, like, I totally believed her as Selena Kyle, Catwoman. And she was badass. And the thing about her casting, especially being a black woman, like, it really made sense and dialed in about the discrepancy between the two in terms of like their stations in life. Because it would make sense why Selena Kyle would go into a life of crime and stealing from the rich. And it made more sense with the dynamic of Bruce Wayne being a white, privileged, rich boy and Selena Kyle being a black woman in the slums of Gotham. Like, and it really made their dynamic make more sense. And it made it a little bit more interesting because they didn't just put her as a black woman in name only. They referenced and made commentary on her being a black woman and being poor in the society around a whole bunch of white crime mobs. And I really like that they inject that level of commentary, because a lot of times they'll recast the character that was once white and make them black, but then like don't add any nuance to the fact that there is a race change. Because if you change the race, that changes a lot about the character. Maybe not so much the personality, but it does change a little bit of the commentary around it. And a lot of times these shows, movies, etc. don't really address it. Like even like a Nick Fury in the Avengers, where you got this black man, Samuel L. Jackson, being like one of the highest ranking officials in the government as the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. But like, I would like to see more of like, especially considering he's an older black man, like how he got to that position and what adverse, and granted, that's probably not going to go into that, but like comics and politics go hand in hand. But that's something that's a story I would like to see. But yeah, winding it down, this movie was like 2 hours and 57 minutes. And for the most part, I did not feel the length. Like I could have sat, the only time I started to feel the length, because the only thing about it, I was worried because I had a drink. I had some popcorn and I had a drink, and I was like, don't drink too much because you're going to have to go to the bathroom. Don't go to the bathroom. So I was thinking that a lot of times during the movie, because there's no like, Broadway, if you're sitting in a 2+ hour play, there's going to be an intermission. There's no intermission during the theater. So that's the only time I kept feeling the length. I was like, please don't go to the bathroom. Please don't go to the bathroom. Please don't go to the bathroom. But in terms of like the story in and of itself, I didn't really feel the length because there was so much story to tell. There was so much world building and interesting world building. And also, this is like the first Batman movie where we got to see him be the world's greatest detective. There was a lot of detecting in this movie, especially with the main villain being the Riddler. And so you have to figure out what his next step is, what his next move is, what is he going to do next. And it really gave a lot of Arkham City, Arkham Knight, Arkham Asylum vibes, those video games. it really gave those vibes because in those video games, there's a lot of detective work, especially in the side quests that Batman has to do. It wasn't just all action, 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 action. And I have way more that I want to say, but it's going to dial into spoiler territory. More than likely, I'm trying to coordinate. Frankie and Ron and I are going to go live to talk about the Batman. Frankie and I already saw it. I got to wait for Ron. I think he said he's seeing it on Thursday. And then, of course, you always got to deal with getting schedules together. So I can't say when we're going to go live. Maybe Friday, maybe Saturday, maybe Sunday, maybe next week. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to get Frankie and I together to record, and not a live review, but a pre-recorded review for Uncharted, because we saw that maybe 2 weeks ago, but our schedules keep clashing, and we were actually supposed to record today, but it never happened. But so be on the lookout for that, an Uncharted review. But overall, and actually, there is one more criticism. I'm not going to go fully into it, but I will say, I didn't really like what they did with Andy Serkis's Alfred and his relationship with Bruce Wayne. I wasn't really a fan of that, but that's all I'm gonna really say about that. But overall, like I said, I plan on seeing this movie again, probably this weekend. I really enjoyed it, and I'm gonna say for me, because this movie, like I mentioned, this movie was hampered by not going rated R, and there was some level moments of intensity that I feel like they could have went further with, so that kind of lowered my review a little bit, or my ranking a little bit. But overall, I thought this movie was incredible. I will say, because I know the big question is, who is the best Batman? Do you think Robert Pattinson is the best Batman? And I'm not going to judge it in terms of the Nolan trilogy versus this, because the Nolan movies had a full trilogy. So as of right now, I will probably say I like The Dark Knight a little bit more. But that's, again, it's a full trilogy. But as of right now, I could see this movie taking over my number one spot. And I do kind of like Ben Affleck's Batman a little bit more. And I wish we got to see Ben Affleck's movies as Batman and him directing a Batman movie. But Robert Pattinson is probably my second favorite Batman. It's right here, neck and neck. And who knows, after the second Batman movie, I'm pretty sure he will. He probably will end up being my favorite Batman. But right now, because I've seen Ben Affleck in Batman v Superman and Justice League, and while I didn't necessarily like those movies, I did like him as Batman. So right now, Ben Affleck is right here, but Robert Pattinson is right here. But yeah, I would say for me, The Batman 2022 by Matt Reeves is a high hit. But the question is, are you guys excited to check out The Batman this weekend? Are you going to see it this weekend? Are you going to wait till it hits streaming services? What are your opinions, or what are your thoughts about Robert Pattinson being Batman? And also, when you go see the movie, when you get a chance to come see the movie, come back to this video and let me know your thoughts. Watch, like, share, comment, interact on this video for the algorithm. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much, because it's, again, watch time for the algorithm. Again, if you could do me a favor and hit that like button, it'll really help with the YouTube algorithm and getting this video and the channel out there. And if this is one of your first time checking out one of my videos, hopefully you enjoyed it and you watch to the end for the algorithm, and you check out the other videos on my channel. And if you like what you see, please subscribe for more and hit that bell notification button so you're alerted every single time I post a new video. And tell your friends, families, and neighbors about my channel to help me continue to grow. And as always, I will catch you guys next time.